Well, hey.
Everybody, Illustrator John McCoy doing another real-time drawing here. My friend Robin, he's a fellow illustrator, did this little whale hello there thing, and I thought I kind of want to do something like that, but push the envelope on the pun. So I was brainstorming, and I thought, let's have a well and do like a little well or something, and then also do hay. Hay. Get some hay in there next to the well and say, well, hey there. So let's jump in. So I'm just going to have I'm going to use references here. I'm from Kentucky and I'm used to hay bales. And they have this cylindrical shape. And I love the way they look in fields and stuff. They have kind of like an internal spiral because of the machines that make them. They're wound together, and then they have fibers that hold them into the bundle shape. And then we'll go ahead and sketch out the well here. I'm keeping this quick and loose because I want most of the process to unfold later on. Again, a well is kind of like a cylinder. It's a cylindrical shape, but it's in a vertical format. And the thing I like about wells sometimes is that they're kind of wonky. Like they're not always perfectly geometrically shaped, and it kind of adds a charm to it. And they usually have these wooden beams that hold up a little roof above the well. And then they have like a nice architectural pitched roof above them generally, and then this board that holds a rope that comes down, holds a bucket in the well, and it has actually this crankshaft that you literally grab onto and rotate. And then most wells are built with rocks. And the cool thing about that is they don't have to be perfect. You know, you can, as long as they follow the cylindrical shape. I like things that have not only are they easier to draw, but they add charm to and character to something when they're not perfect. So you can get these little. They still have a brick-like pattern the way they. They switch and they counter stack each other. That's the right word for it. So I might adjust the perspective a little bit on this and kind of create like a little. I'm not sure if I want these objects floating or if I'm going to have some room for type here, but I think I might just have like a subtle indication of a background. Maybe throw some plants by the well here. And well, hey there. So I have to consider where I'm going to place the type, but I'm going to go ahead and base off of these references. I'm just Googled some references of wells and hay bales, and I'm just going to jump in there and start to render with ink the little well here. So they have like these neat architectural slabs of wood here that create a slatted pitched roof for the well, and they have these boards that have some depth to them, so I'm going to indicate that, and then indicate the layers of these little roof pieces. But there's some freedom as far as how I render this, because it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's kind of the joy of illustration to be able to have some charm, as I said earlier. It has to have some kind of technical accuracy as far as how they would construct these boards for a well, and then kind of include some depth here. But I'm going to color these. I've got to my right, I have an array of colored pencils that I'm going to use to describe this further with some color information. And then that will make it a fun illustration. So I'm using some I'm going to use some hatching here just to describe the form that's going on. Given that there's a roof here, there's probably some shadow underneath the roof. And I kind of like to add little recesses in the wood to show that this is wood and these are not perfectly built. And then, of course, you have this little, probably an iron handle that people can crank to draw water from the well. There's an indication of rope there. And then I'm going to take a break from the well before I get into this. There's some symmetry in mine, so it's going to be a little more calculations going on. And I'm going to switch to the hay. Start rendering the hay. And again, I'm going with a hay bale. So just go to Google and pick up a hay bale reference here. They have a wonderful kind of little bits of hay stick out in the contours, and I can indicate that with like some loose, aesthetically considered indicators of the contour of the overall hay bale. And I want to have these two have the same perspective in mind, because I want them to kind of exist in the same space. And then really lightly, I'm just going to kind of go in here and indicate that spiral construction of a hay bale. Things are bound up like that in these hay bales, and I've seen them made. They're really fun to watch the tractor pull along a hay bale maker, a haymaker. And I'm going to have the light source. I'm using my reference image. I'm going to have the light source where the shadows are behind us. So I can go ahead and really lightly, and I love this, I'm using a Sharpie pen. So what I love about it is how you can apply lighter pressure on these pens, and they behave very nicely that way. Of course, I'm going to want to create a strong indication between the light and the dark side. And I'll probably do a cast shadow here. Just kind of indicate that a light source is coming from this direction, and then I'll probably do the same thing over here, just with the well. But the pressure, the variability of pressure in the Sharpie pen is fantastic. I love it. So there's kind of a cylindrical spiraling and bundling that happens. Probably a lot of the information for this drawing and the charm of it is going to come from the colors. I'm going to color in my little ink drawing after I erase my sketch lines. And now I'm going to jump in with that top of the well, right on the surface here, the most front, the top facing plane. And I'm going to say this is like one piece of metal or some kind of fabrication, and then when you have a stone built well, it's going to have like this rough but strongly defined boundary around the edges of the contour. But then the beauty of stone is that you can kind of indicate the texture. You don't have to worry too much about being super tight and same size with all your little stones you're putting in there. Really, they are varied, and they just fit the stones in the mortar where they can when they build these things. But they do. I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for, but the way they build these things is that they counter the laying of the stone there by having one stone and then two in between it, and then one stone, and as you see with bricks. So it's kind of the same principle, but just not as because stones vary in shape and size, and that's the charm of it, then you don't need the same size stone for everyone, which is kind of creates some artistic freedom, but again, as I said, creates charm. Since the light is coming from this direction, I'm going to indicate that the further planes that face away, like the top of this iron rim circle thingy, are going to be in shadow, and then I want to clearly define the edge here and there. And then I'm going to, since I indicated a shadow side to this hay bale, then I'm going to indicate a shadow side to my well here. But some of the information I'm going for is going to be expressed in the coloring of it. So again, when you're doing an ink drawing, there's kind of like there's an aesthetic of varying the thickness of lines. You don't want, like some places I have less thick lines, and I think I'm going to jump right into color here, and then we'll do the typography. Shadows are going to be on a light color, like this hay color, are going to be a little less strong. They're going to be softer. I have like a nice yellow for the light side of the hay, and then I'm going to go, shadows generally tend to be cooler, especially with the sunlight. So I'm going to go ahead and take these two colors, and I'll start with the lighter of the two in value, and just casually define a shadow color which is full of color and not desaturated. So a little bit of blue in there for that cool, a little bit of purple, which might be this color affected by coolness, and then we'll go ahead and block in the hay color, the local color of the hay. And one way to blend these two together is just to go in on the shadow side and tell you that it is the same color, just being affected by shadow. And then the wood I'm keeping it simple because I think that suits the style of this sketch. And then we'll just go for a classic wood color. I'm keeping all my coloration at a diagonal stroke just to keep that as a uniform consistency, and I'm going to just unify all my wood elements with a brown, typical kind of conceptual wood color. Not all wood colors are brown, but for the sake of illustrating and descripting something as being wood, brown is a go-to color, and so it tells the story that that's wood. So we're interested in telling a story, and then this is, I'm calling this iron here. And then the rope really could be any color. And then the stone, that one I'm just going to use, again, I'm going to use, probably for uniformity, I'm going to use the same shadow colors because that will unify the hay and the well. And it'll say that they're under the same shadow. And I will actually treat all shadows with this coloration. Again, kind of a vignetted little narrative scene, but so it's not filled in completely. I may or may not introduce a background there, but then I'm just going to use some simple gray. This is warm gray. So, and I'm going to do the same thing with the hay bale. I'm going to introduce the light side color into the shadow. I almost forgot to put that blue in there. So that really tells a story that you have this good shadow that's happening, and a little bit of that as a gradation on the top plane of this little wood shaft for the well. I may want to add something in the background. So what I'm going to do is take like a green, and I'm going to use a light green with a little bit of warmth to it to say that it's in the sunlight. And I got to keep that diagonal stroke and just kind of rough it in but fade it out. And then in the, I'll probably put that behind there because you're gonna see some light behind there as well, because the shadows don't coat everything behind that. And then I can probably just take like a light blue to indicate a sky in the background. Just something really light that's not going to be super descriptive, like forced like it has to be, defining a whole background image, but just to indicate that we have a ground plane and a sky. And I think I'm getting just about done with that. I'm gonna add the typographical element to the piece. I should have erased the sketchy lines that I put in here, but I should be able to do that anyways. It's going to pull out those little lines, which for the most part are not visible anymore because they've been colored in. But a knead eraser will not pick up ink, and it certainly won't pick up much of the wax of the colored pencils. But when I remove those sketchy lines, it cleans up the image. It's probably, if I can improve upon this, this is probably too harsh of a line. But it's not too bad because it contrasts with the light side, whereas this, I don't need a dark line to contrast what's already dark. I just want to keep the sketch simple, fun, and now I'm going to jump in with the typography. I think I'm probably going to pencil it in first and then go for it, but I'm going to try to, it's a left-right read, so it's well, hey, there. So I'm deciding right now, kind of ideating about how I want to describe this typeface. Should I make the well like a well and the hey like a hey, like make the hey look like hey? Or should I just do, I'm probably just going to do, for uniformity's sake, maybe somewhat of a cursive and just keep it all the same. Remember, I have to spell hey like hey for the pun to work. Cursive is kind of nice for just, yeah, that's not bad. Cursive is nice for kind of a fancy aesthetic. I gotta really brace myself when I get down and do this. You know, make sure I've got a good strong wrist and I keep these lines. And I'm not gonna be able to talk when I do this, so here we go. Gotta jump in. Okay, I might do an exclamation there. First off, I'm gonna take the eraser and erase any of my guidelines. See what I'm dealing with. I'll start with the one that I've done first because these Sharpie pens are really good about drying quickly, but I want to make sure that it is dry before I do that because that would really ruin it to have ink smeared across a beautiful typeface. But yeah, you can see it does dry very fast, so that's a good thing. It's a good feature. And then I think I might, yeah, I'm probably going to put an exclamation mark. So I should pencil that in first. Okay. I'm just going to kind of keep it at that slant of the overall. That's not bad. Okay. Make sure that's dry before I go ahead and do the same thing, erase my guideline. Oh, shoot. See there, it happened a little bit. That's not bad. If anything, it just serves to show you that patience is key. Now, I have the possibility of adding color to the typeface, but I don't know if it really needs it. For this one, I am going to sneak a signature in there, but I'll just put it in the shadow over here. So just use that typical recent signature I'm doing, just my initial and the year. And then, of course, I'm going to put, since this is a daily sketch, I'm going to include that in there, which number of the daily sketch it is. It's 175. So I'm just going to keep it right here, switch it up, and put that 175 above. And I might want to warm up the whole thing, up here at least. So I'm going to take a really warm sunburst yellow. That's a perfect name for what's going to happen here. And I'm just going to kind of keep that diagonal stroke and color in the entire image and see what that looks like, just to create a sense of the whole scene being sunny. When I do this, I have to be aware of the overall shape I'm creating with this lay-in of tone. I don't want to bring it down too much because I want to keep it, have some spacing between the illustration part and the typeface part. So I just have to be, again, aesthetically considering what I'm doing, thinking of that overall shape that yellow tone is making. And I'll probably fade it as it goes up to indicate that there's sky and the sun's hitting the ground more so. Plus I don't have to worry about the barrier up there. But I already like this effect that this is taken. They're getting lighter as I go to the top. Little flecks of ink away. You may or may not want to add a little bit of grip with the ink here on the ground side of this hay bale. Okay, not sure if that was a good move. Well, I think it does kind of balance out this dark line here. But again, yeah, I'm on the fence about that one. And speaking of a fence, I think maybe not such a bad idea to do that. Maybe in the background, maybe I can just roughly indicate that there's a fence back there. Sometimes it's nice to have an element in there that's not surrounded by ink or defined by ink. Just kind of a light indication of something else happening back there. Maybe I'll have one of those the fence ends kind of thing happening there. Maybe not the best move, but you know, you just take leaps of faith, and I think I might add maybe some happy little trees here just to kind of balance out the height of that well. To say that there's something else going on in the background. Maybe one more, but have it be smaller and have it fade that way. And then indicate that there's grass happening here. And kind of keep it lighter with thinking of in terms of the lighting there. Cool. That's the cuckoo clock. Perfect time to end a drawing. Thanks for watching, you guys. Hope you've enjoyed this process, the sketching process video. If you do, please hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. We're growing on YouTube slowly but surely. And yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. God bless you.